Fashion and costume are shimmering treasures of civilization. Among all creations, clothing is the one most closely related to humans. The wearing of clothing shapes our image and identity, and mediates our relationship with others of the world. All the world's a stage. One dresses up to play his role and makes his dreams come true. The exhibition Beauty Changes, 100 Years of Italian Fashion and Costume took place at Bund 33, an over 170-year-old historical building on the Bund, Shanghai, and open to the public from November 17, 2023 to February 29, 2024. Planned and organized by Hantang Culture, this inaugural exhibition of the national-level arts and humanities program, Art Shanghai European National Treasures, traces back Italian fashion and costume design from the 1900s to the present and explores the birth and evolution of fashion history, women's identity, and Italy's national cultural identity. In this exhibition, valuable treasures of Italian culture made their debut in China. Beauty Changes, 100 Years of Italian Fashion and Costume is the inaugural exhibition of Art Shanghai, an art and culture program planned for the next 20 years.
整个Art Shanghai所关注的一个视野的范围，从时间维度上来讲，是一段世纪的历史。从地理维度上来讲呢，Art Shanghai我们会和不同的欧洲国家合作，我们希望呈现的是经过历史的检验以及沉淀的关于艺术的命题。
At the entrance of the exhibition, visitors are welcomed by a colorful fabric sculpture. The iconic piece was created by the legendary fashion designer Roberto Capucci to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the very first Italian high fashion show held in 1951 that marked the birth of Made in Italy. Since then, Italian fashion and the designers bearing the label have acquired their unique identity and position on the international stage. The spectrum of velvet and Indian silk is the epitome of people's perceptions of the kaleidoscopic fashion world. The century-long history of Italian fashion brings us back to the age of purity at the beginning of the 20th century. Furnishings and women's clothing are our land, all ours, without obstacles and without disputes, because the dress is the home, said Rosa Giannoni, a seamstress who connected the creation of clothing with the freedom and emancipation of women, and was later revered as the mother of Italian fashion. In a society where the women's status was still tied to the family, they conducted careful yet eager searches for ways to develop their careers and unleash their creativity, and demonstrated how women expanded their artistic skills in sewing and embroidery from furnishings to garments. Without excessive colors or intricate embellishments, they serve as a terse yet telling example of how women express their creativity within limited conditions. Juxtaposed with the array of white dresses created in the 1900s is a costume created in 2003. The white linen dress, decorated with cotton lace, is a stage costume for The Seagull, an Anton Chekhov play directed by Peter Stein. It was designed by costume designer Anna Maria Henrich for one of the protagonists, Irina Arkadina. Adorned with extensive lace trims, the costume contributes to part of the character of Arkadina. By casting off the nascent innocence comes the golden dawn of Italian fashion. Between 1915 and 1935, an Italian woman gained fame in Europe and the US for her unique art of dressmaking. This woman was Maria Monacci Gallenga, widely recognized as the first modern designer in the history of Italian fashion. She revolutionized fabric printing techniques with metallic powder, using bronze or copper powders for a golden effect, and aluminum for silver. This created delicate prints with floating light and gradient shadow. The griffin motif on the silk velvet overcoat was inspired by the silk fabrics produced in Lucca during the Renaissance period, which had somehow been influenced by the Oriental silk weaving techniques. Gallenga took garments as wearable decorative arts. This artistic innovation of a century ago contributed to the world of fashion by establishing a unique Italian-style expression. For clothing to become fashion, it must rely on the strength of the community and employ various forms of communication to create a unified and multidimensional narrative. Within this section, visitors can admire the works by Gallinga and other Italian designers from the 1920s. The Roaring Twenties were known as one of the most glamorous periods in history. Performed to upbeat jazz music, the fast-paced Charleston dance was highly popular and became an important part of the glitzy urban nightlife. The emancipated new woman who bobbed her hair, wore loose, knee-length dresses, remains the most enduring symbol in fashion history. Created around 1925, these evening dresses reflect the dance craze and urban lifestyle prevalent at that time. In sleeveless, short and square silhouette and with shiny fabric embroidered with sequins, beads, and metallic threads, these dresses accentuate the movement of the ballroom dance. This section foreshadows a desire to weave dreams in Italian fashion design. It delves into experimentation with craftsmanship and fabrics, artistic expression, breaking free from societal conventions, and new creations deeply rooted in rightful inheritance from Italian culture. It is a ceremonial moment in the history of Italian fashion, when the art of costume meets the art of opera. This section in the Conservatory presents Roberto Capucci's first foray into operatic costume creation. In 1986, a concert was held at the Arena di Verona in honor of La Divina Maria Callas. Roberto Capucci designed costumes for the aria Costa Diva from Bellini's opera Norma. 12 dancers dressed in this costume slowly walked onto the stage in a poetic formation, one of the most touching moments of the concert.
我们去研究了维罗纳圆形剧场1986年当年的这场纪念音乐会上的原始的一个录像，然后我们发现呢，原始的录像它所采用的就是这样的一个圆盘形的一个展台，所以呢，等于是我们借用了当时的这个歌剧演出的一个意象，以一种凝练的方式又呈现在了我们的这个展厅当中。我们之所以把它去放置在这样一个能够跟天光有直接交融的一个中庭的空间，也是为了营造出来一个与天交流的仪式性的场所。那所以说，其实这个展览从整个的展品的一个布局，那到一个展陈的设计，我们实际上都希望它能够深刻的基于这个空间本身的特点，形成一种这个互文的关系。
The costume embodies the characteristics of sculptural gown, which Capucci has been exploring since the 1970s. The skirt is made of silk taffeta, which is stacked to create a Baroque contrast between light and shadow, often found in Roman architecture and sculpture. As the dancer moves, the cord and lame decorations present a flowing effect of light and shadow like a silk armor. From color, texture to silhouette, this costume is an ode to the sacred and solemn posture of the goddess. The Great Depression in the 1930s and 40s saw the ingenuity of designers and women in crafting their wardrobes under restraint conditions. Extravagant skirts with oversized silhouettes and intricate materials fell out of fashion in Europe. Instead, streamlined cuts, defined shoulders, and knee-length skirts took center stage, embracing simplicity and maximizing material efficiency. One significant trend that emerged during this period was the bias cut, pioneered by French designer Madeleine Vionnet. This innovative cut places the pattern at a 45-degree angle on the fabric to capitalize on the natural stretch and flexibility of fabric, allowing garments to drape organically with gravity. Bias-cut garments liberated women from restrictive undergarments, gracefully conformed to their bodies, and accentuated their contours. This design approach continues to inspire and be interpreted by generations of designers today. Another noteworthy innovation of the time was the surrealist designs by Italian designer Elsa Schiaparelli. Inspired by her style, the dress features a pocket hidden in the spiral fabric circle for a dazzling tompoloia effect. The concept of clothing as wearable art embodies the creative essence deeply embedded in the DNA of Italian design, where imagination and craftsmanship flow with needle and thread. The 1950s saw the transformation of Italian fashion. Before that, Paris reigned as the center of world fashion. On February 12, 1951, Giovanni Battista Giorgini, often referred to as the father of Italian fashion, held the first Italian high fashion show by bringing together a bunch of Italian fashion houses, marking the emergence of Italian fashion onto the international stage. In 1952, the fashion show was held in the Sala Bianca in Palazzo Pitti to hold more guests and media. Through this platform set up by Mr. Giorgini, outstanding young Italian designers reached a wider audience and gained prominence on the global fashion stage. In this section, the work of Italian couturiers from the 1950s are presented. Some of them shone brightly during the emergence of Made in Italy and carved out their own niche in the fashion world, while others faded into obscurity amidst the ebb and flow of the times. This floral embroidery long décolleté evening dress by fashion princess Irene Galitzine is a copy of the Dior haute couture model. It is an example of how Italian high fashion followed the French models in the early 1950s. Also designed by Irene Galitzine, the geometric embroidery long décolleté evening dress features modern femininity and exquisite craftsmanship. The cocktail dress appeared in the 1920s and gained popularity in the post-war era. The cocktail attire is somewhere between casual and formal, which is typical for a cocktail hour happening between day and night. Emilio Schaberth experimented with the balloon-shaped skirt. Despite the width of the fabric, the silhouette is constructed with great tailoring. The dress looks like an upside-down white flower. These rounded shapes were difficult to achieve and maintain. The wearer who sat down risked deflating her skirt, although this danger was avoided at cocktail parties where guests usually stood.
在这个房间，就是我们采用了，其实完全是透过这个自然光的一个照明，透过这个白色的纱帘，去把整个的这个空间的光打匀。我们更强调的是一种氛围，它是一个在这个展厅当中发生的一种氛围，而不是我们要去刻意营造的一种氛围。
The significant political and cultural shifts in the 1960s and 70s ushered in a transformative period in fashion. The revolutionary subcultures driven by youth became the catalyst for lifestyle and fashion trends. This period also witnessed the second wave of feminism. Trousers ceased to be exclusively male attire. Knee-length miniskirts emerged as symbols of women's emancipation. The A-line design intentionally avoided accentuating women's curves, providing them with enhanced comfort during outdoor activities. The palazzo pajama designed by Irene Galitzine featured bright colors, glamour, and a sense of relax, showcasing innovation as an evening wear option for women. Jacqueline Kennedy wrote to Galitzine, "Jane, Morella, Lee, and I are in your uniform every night." With a passion for art such as painting and music from a young age, Renato Balestra got inspired by the emerging op art and pop art trends and used color, line, and recurring elements as his main stylistic language. Created by Emilio Pucci, the Prince of Prints, the derrière and pantsuit feature kaleidoscopic prints combining pure lines with the joy of color, the typical Pucci style. In the 1980s, power suits with thick shoulder pads were much favored by ambitious working ladies who wanted to make their mark in a male-dominated world. These suits met their needs by balancing practicality and elegance. The power suits make strong statements of authority and competence, while the nightgowns during this period express individuality through rich details, decorative elements, and sequins. Addressing the multifaceted dimension of modern women, both power suits and power dresses are expressions of confidence and courage. These power dresses are still influential today, and their shapes and proportions continue to inspire and be interpreted by today's brands. Inspired by a collection of 1980s Giorgio Armani garments in the legendary Italian workshop Sartoria Ferrani, Colleen Atwood, 4 Academy Awards winner for Best Costume Design, designed the costume for the movie Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. The movie is set in the 1920s. Letta Lestrange, hailing from an ancient pureblood wizarding family, has exceptional talent, but also carries dark secrets from her past. This exquisite black silk velvet evening gown captures the essence of a character who emanated elegance, aloofness, and concealed secrets. Costumes and fashions, the best of two worlds that come from the same origin. Fashions from past eras serve as a reference for film and theatrical costumes, while costumes become a source of inspiration for today's designers. The section Mythos of the costumes presents both antique costumes and contemporary pieces, the fruits of dream-making by Italian garment art. These costumes show how the pursuit of finer craftsmanship and artistic expression, a long tradition in the history of Italian fashion, has created the myth of clothing under the curtains of fantastic films and operas.
在整个的展陈设计当中，这次的设计师 Joseph de Jardin 并没有把这些作品作为一个衣服去呈现，而是作为一个舞台的人物，在不同的空间当中，根据这个衣装的特点形成一种善变。当那些衣装它们掩映在那样一个镜面的舞台上的时候，又会形成一种水流一般的流动的光影的一个效果，那营造出来一种既微妙又梦幻，但是又很克制的一种视觉的流动的一种感受。
This costume was designed by costume design master Danilo Donati in 1969 for actress Daniele Luna in Federico Fellini's Cetricon. Luna was the first African-American supermodel in the fashion world and the muse of many artists. The Spanish artist Salvador Dali once described her as the reincarnation of Nefertiti. This is another costume designed by Danilo Donati for Fellini's Il Casanova di Federico Fellini. Inspired by the court attire of the 18th century, the red costume featured classical yet somehow abstract geometric patterns, profiled with contrasting gold trimmings for a flamboyant visual effect. Hailed as one of the best, most controversial, and most haunting ancient Greek tragedies, Medea offers a superlative portrayal of women's fury and destructive power. These two costumes were designed by Franco Scarcipino, winner of the Academy Award for Best Costume Design, for the opera Medea, directed by Robert Wilson, the master of experimental theater. These two costumes in the exhibition couple the typical shape of Greek tunics with modern Missoni fabrics and exotic embossed cuirasses to enhance the aura of a timeless epic. The costume was designed by Alessandro Turella for the mother in the opera Il Prigioniero, directed by Fabio Sparvoli. Turella has incorporated innovative fabrics and creative techniques into the shape of historical costumes. Her work features classic patterns formed by iridescent fabrics or made with combustions and block prints, reminiscent of the artistic innovations and technique experiments by Maria Monacci Galinga in the 1920s. These costumes, housed or created by Sartoria Ferrani, provide a sample for studies of fashion evolution and a reference for the lifelike costumes in today's fictional creations. The exhibition draws to a close with the creations of Silvio Iardina, a prominent contemporary Italian haute couture designer. Seamlessly blending traditional craftsmanship, innovative material with contemporary aesthetics, the pieces epitomize the present and the future of Italian fashion. Despite the ever-changing nature of creative inspiration, the essence of Italian fashion remains deeply rooted in three fundamental elements: craftsmanship, joy, and art. The 100 Years of Italian Fashion is a journey formed by interpenetrated dreams and reality. Through the exhibition, dreams and new stories will be generated in the architecture of Bund 33 Shanghai and through interactions between these national treasures and the Chinese audience.